Welcome to Season 3 of Sunday Conversations. Thank you for your continued support. Get ready as we embark on this year's journey of great content. Sit back, enjoy, and delight yourself with these conversations. So what's up, everybody? We're back, Season 3. Can you believe it, man?
And it started with a conversation, and all of a sudden, it's 3 seasons in, man.
3 seasons in, and I know everybody probably saying 3 seasons. Yes, it's been 3 seasons. We actually started in 2021. Did all of 2022, and we're just starting for 2023. So thank you guys for being with us over the 2 past years of Sunday Conversations. When we first started this, we attached it to the Sunday service, and we played it 30 minutes before the Sunday service, and then it just went right into the live service. So and then last year we decided to separate it and actually branch it off. So man, we've talked about some awesome topics over the past 2 years.
Definitely, and just to see that the growth. I remember when we first started, we was at the church, and the lighting was off, everything was just backwards, and then we had to pre-record. And you say, you know what, just come to the house, and we just do it there.
Yes,
and then to see, what you've done so far. From what we started with to what you have now, man, this is amazing. So
yes,
it's amazing.
So the studio is still coming together. We got a few more changes that we want to do to our studio, which hopefully will be coming within the next couple of weeks, and we have a different background, that'll be totally different than what we are used to. So other than that, man, so what is our topic about today?
The freedom to or the experience and the liberty of being free.
Experience and the liberty of being free.
Learning how to let go and let God.
Yes. So I recently did a video on a major platform where we discussed trauma. A year ago, that you discussed the trauma that you had went through. And I think that the most interesting thing that has come out of this is to learn that men are not expressing their trauma.
Exactly.
So what led you to the point to express yours? And then for the people that don't know, hey, matter of fact, just tell the people that actually don't know about yours, and then we'll go into mine. And also, can you explain what led you to expose your trauma?
Right. So during the pandemic, I think it put a emphasis on so much stress, more than we probably realized, going into just unforeseen things that we didn't know what to expect. And for me, what it did was it exposed a lot of habits that I had that I thought I was in control of.
Okay.
And so when you are in a position where now your kids are at home with you full time, and at the time my wife was pregnant, and usually for the most part, she's had pretty bad pregnancies, but this one was really bad. She was really sick. And so a lot of things were on my shoulders that I, at that point in time, was not ready, or I didn't realize how unprepared I was to handle that. As the husband, as the father, thinking that, I got everything under control.
So are you saying that what was hard as in some essence being a single parent, because your wife has this really hard pregnancy, then you have to work, you have to cook, you got to clean, you got to do all that. Right. Is that what you're saying?
So that was the initial part, right?
Okay.
And so thinking that prior to that, I could do that without no question. I'm good. But what it showed was there were things that I was still dealing with internally that I hadn't yet dealt with.
Okay.
There were issues with just my internal feelings of things that I was growing up with as a child that I didn't understand how to properly deal with as an adult. And so going through that experience led me to a place of isolation because I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't know how to express what I was feeling, but I knew what I was feeling was just not normal. And so I think the isolation caused me to realize that, you start speaking negatively in yourself. You start saying, you know what, they're better off without me. I'm not good enough. I'm not supposed to be. Like all these things that just don't make sense when you're in the right state of mind. But for me, being exposed to just this isolation of feeling like there's no hope for me, and the things that I've dealt with growing up, I said, you know what, I'm better off not being here.
Oh, wow.
And so I remember one day we had just got back from Disney. And out of all places, we went to Disney to celebrate my graduation. Just got back, and the kids and the wife went in the house, and I just sat in the car. And I said, you know what, I'm done. And I left the car running and closed the garage, and I just sat there, and I just said, you know what, this is it. I'm out. And I was ready at that point to just go. And that's when I heard God's voice said, did you give me a try? Did you really give me a try? Did you really try? And that was the sign that pulled me out. And I said, you know what? Turned the car off. I got out. And at that point in time, I didn't tell anybody about how I felt. I didn't explain to anybody, but I just say, you know what? I'm going to trust God in this moment. I'm going to really give it a try, because I didn't, you know, when things go wrong, when we go through certain situations, the first thing we want to do is, you know, go to what's comfort.
That's true.
Go to what makes me feel good. And it's usually not wanting to confront the issues that you're dealing with, because you don't want to deal with that pain. And so I never thought about the reaction or the way I responded to my trauma.
Okay.
Because when I responded to my trauma, it was usually me turning away from God versus drawing closer.
Okay.
And so this was the first time that I experienced saying, you know what, let me draw closer. Let me stop making excuses for what's not happening and start trusting God for what is to come and what possibly can happen. So when I did that, that's when I was able to be free in what I felt. And then come to realize that there was a lot of people dealing with that. There was a lot of people going through the same thing that I was going through at that time during COVID, during the pandemic. And I'm like, wow, I would have never known. And I would have exited this world, leaving my wife and my kids to fend for themselves, and never giving myself the opportunity to fight back.
Yes.
And so that was my biggest thing. And that's what I learned going through this process. And I finally got to share it at church when we had our Sunday morning school of the Bible. And one of the topics that I was teaching was on suicide. And I said, man, like the way that the way that things orchestrated, because in that time, during that process, I had to educate myself on, from a biblical standpoint, what suicide looked like in the Bible. And then also from a mental health standpoint, the effects that it was having on us during that time. And I said, man, this is an attack from the enemy. And if I don't get ahead of this and educate myself to not only help myself, but the people around me that may be going through the same thing, it's going to be a problem. So that's what I did. And that experience, to be able to share it with you guys during church was liberating.
Okay. So what's the amazing part is that I think that men always get into an isolated state, meaning that when we're trying to figure something out, we try to figure it out on our own. I've often said that sometimes women don't understand the capacity or the levity of the pressure that we have on our shoulders to care for, first, our entire household, to be the husband, to be the father, to be the provider, to be the protector, to pray, to finance, to orchestrate or to delegate every single thing that encompasses the family, especially when you have children in the house. I don't think that women ever grasp the responsibility, the weight of the responsibility with that. And too often that we don't have people that we can talk to effectively or talk to openly and fully expose ourselves and say, dude, this is what I'm feeling, and this man, this weight is really heavy, and and they're actually getting me. And when we go to that place, we find ourselves getting depressed. We find ourselves coming down on ourselves harder. We actually find ourselves saying exactly what you said. They can do better without me. And in essence, if we just raise our hand and say, hey, I'm not feeling good, or that I need help. Hey, I need guidance, bruh. Can you help me out? Or sometimes just going to our spouse. We get to that portion of isolation that we completely isolate ourselves from any type of help.
Yeah, and I told myself, I said, she don't understand. She's not gonna get what I'm going through. And I never gave her a chance. And the one thing that she told me when I expressed to her how I felt about what I was going through, she was like, I would have never known, because I carried myself as everything was
everything is okay. You know, and that goes back to a couple of months ago when the entertainer Twitch committed suicide. It amazed me. I think that the greatest portion about his story that amazed me was he walked out of his house, left his wife and his 3 children, I think either 2 or 3 children that he left in the house, walked out with just his wallet, walked down the street to the hotel that was down the street from their house, checked in under his name, and committed suicide. Like, I often think, what got him to that point? What was it that actually caused him to walk out of his house, to look at them and knowing that he had made a decision not to come back? You know, so, but then when I think about how that we isolate ourselves, or we get to a place to where we feel that this is the end and there's no way that I can come back from this, that's where the enemy come in. And when the Bible talks about the fiery darts, those are the fiery darts. The thoughts that enter our head are the fiery darts. It's not the thoughts, it's when we give life to the thoughts. The moment we give life to the thought that comes is when the enemy can come in and actually destroy us. Especially if our armor of God is not on and is not where that it should be, then the enemy's attack come in and it actually destroys us from the inside out.
Right. And there's a book that I'm reading right now called Resilient by John Eckridge. And he talks about how when you ever watch Discovery Channel and you see how they do the Great Migrations, and one of the things they always show is the weak ones like straggling behind. And that those weak ones are usually caught by the hyenas, the lions, you know what I'm saying? Because that's how it goes. And the correlation that he made with that was our relationship with God has to be like we're walking with the pack, strong pack.
That's a powerful
The moment
concept.
when we fall away, it's because we are not close enough to God's relationship, or the strength of God, to where God is. That's when we get attacked. That's when all the people come and get us. It's not when we're at our best. It's when we're at our weakest. And we as people are resilient. We can deal with stuff, but our capacity to deal is also intertwined with our awareness to assess.
Yes, that's right.
And when we don't have the awareness to assess or hit those checkpoints to know that something's not right, that's when we can get to the point where we can say, you know what, I'm done, I'm out, and not think twice about it, because you have already processed that there's nothing here for me, or there's nothing that I can do to add value to anybody around me. And that's the part where, for me, I know that the enemy is constantly attacking. Like, the attacks don't change just because I now have a better understanding of how I'm dealing with it.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of knowing that what I need to do to make sure that my family and I am where I need to be to take care of my family. If I'm pouring everything out, but I don't have anything to give at the end of the day, then I need to go and replenish. I need to get back in the word. I need to go to my Father. I need to go to my confidant. If I don't have nobody to talk to, I can talk to God.
Right.
I can pray. I can have that moment to replenish myself with the things I need to go forth and do what I need to do.
Correct. You know, so mine was happened when I was, which you are how old now, Alex?
I am.
So that happened with you with 33. Okay, so mine, happened at the age of 27. When I did the podcast, I said 28. I went back and I thought about when it happened. I was 27 years old. So for you that don't know, I was raped by a pastor, my actual spiritual father. It happened in what I say, yes, I came to God. I came to know God at a very young age. But as an adult, when you start getting the teaching and the revelations of who God is, and you're getting them with principle base, you start gaining more and more knowledge of what God is. And so then you start having reverence to the man of God different than when you did as a child. Because now as an adult, you started to understand what the word does, or what the word is, what the word says, and how to properly apply it. And when you're in a ministry that's teaching those principles on how to apply principles, so that you get the rewards of the word so that you reap the rewards of what the word says. Right. And when I actually think about it, man, like now I've had more thought to it, even more, and I've just gone more and more in depth of thinking about it since I've exposed that. Is that there was a grooming process, and it was a slow-paced grooming process that actually took place, and it took place with everybody that was around him, not just not just the people that was there. That when it happened, it actually like now that I go back, I can see the grooming process happen. But when you're naive to that, you don't know that any of that is actually taking place. I know now because of my awareness, my maturity level, and also life happening, and you start gaining knowledge of a whole bunch of stuff. Right. So now that I have the knowledge of that, and I can recollect back now to the actual grooming process. People often ask me, why didn't I say anything? Like, I was 27. Married at the time. I was married about 3.5 years, or almost 4 years. Didn't know anything like this existed, or if you heard about it, it never was in the community that you knew or the community that you were around. So you definitely can't say I know how this looked right before it actually happened. No, I don't. What I looked at as being a standard meeting that we've had once before, it's the same meeting that we was having then, so I didn't think anything different. So that was no need.
There's no red flags.
There's no red flags. There's no reason to throw up a flare, but like, hold on, what's out going on? Mm-hmm. Everything was just as normal as it could be. People have asked me, well, where was God in this? Like you're Christian, you this. Well, where was God? God was right there. But evil exists in this world. If I chose to do evil right now, that was my choosing to do the evil that I chose to do, or that I made a decision to do. So when the word says that we're born into sin, we are born into the sin of this earth. The sin, it already exists. How's it that a newborn child, when they start talking, they know how to be deceptive in some point? Because we were born into sin. So and it's our tutelage and our training of training them out of being deceptive and like, no, you don't do that. You know that you're supposed to always tell the truth. So, but when it came to that, man, it was just crazy. Like, it was the worst experience I've ever had in my entire life. When I think about it, my first thought was I go to my car and kill everybody, right? Then the second thought was, if I do that, then I'm going to jail. I always say that I never do anything to go to jail, right? But the thought that I never had, let me go tell somebody.
Yeah.
The thought that I never had was, let me go tell somebody. Never had that thought.
No, when I saw it, because I didn't know what to expect, and so when you said what, I said, what? They did what? And so I went from quoting Bible scriptures to rap lyrics. I'm like, no, we getting this back in blood. I turned into Pooh Shiesty. I was like, I don't care how long it's been. No.
Yes.
But what really shocked me was your resolve at the end of saying, I forgive him.
Yes.
I let him go.
Now,
and I was like, wow.
In that, there was a state of shock. So let me make this clear for everybody that saw the podcast and they didn't get to hear me say this now. Was there a portion of that? Was I traumatized? Yes. First and foremost, yes, I was traumatized. 2, because I was in the military, and because of the training that I had been through, my mind is trained to overcome any harsh, traumatizing situation at that moment, and I was trained to be able to react. At that time I had gone to war once before, and I had done some real world missions that I can't talk about. But in those real world missions, I've had situations to where I had to be, very quick on your feet. So when you have that, it's easy for you to compartmentalize. Compartmentalize. To compartmentalize. Forget it. I can't even say the word. Ain't this okay? That's the joke for the day right now. Okay, so but it's easy for us to do that and do it quickly without even thinking about it. Instantly, that I thought about my wife at the time. It's like, how can I tell her this? Oh man, you can't tell her that, because then she'll be destroyed from it. Then I have to deal with her. What this? The question is in and out. And if anybody knew my first wife, that once she get going on that tantrum of questions, it's days before she come back. Yeah. So, but it's like, okay, so I have to protect her. I have to protect my child. Because I had a newborn child at that time. So I had to protect him. So I can't tell them that. How am I going to look like being the man of this household? How am I going to look, to her? I'm going to look weak. So those are all the kind of thoughts that went through my head, as well as, okay, I got to forgive.
So at what point in time did you tell somebody? Like,
I never told anybody.
So you held on to that up until that point?
I never told anybody. I never told anybody. And I guess from the podcast, as I went back and I watched the podcast several times now, I guess that people felt that it had just happened. No, it did not just happen. Of course, that was now 24 years ago now. So I never told anybody. And I think that my best friend was the only one that knew the details of it, because we were having these deep conversations. So, and at the time, she was the only one that truly knew the full details of it. I've talked about it, but I've never gone into detail about it. So, and people ask me, how were you able to forgive? Because I understand that forgiveness is not for them, it's for me. First and foremost, I can forgive and never ever think about it, but I can forgive and knowing that the forgiveness is for me and it's not for them. Now, did I ever talk to the person again? I think I probably talked to them about 3 or 4 times after that, but I left the ministry. And I really never looked back. There was one time that I actually saw them, and I think that my reason for seeing them was to be more of like, you didn't break me. That what you tried to destroy is that you couldn't destroy.
Right.
And so then from that, the actual trauma portion of it is, that when you have to prove yourself as a man, because when a true man is raped or molested or anything like that, especially when you're of the age to where you understand it, the very first thing that you want to do is go and prove yourself.
That's not me. I'm not that.
Yeah, I look, I did. I'm like, let's go get wild.
I'm saying, like,
you know,
I'm not what that was. So
yeah. So yeah, you know, that's not me. You know, I am not gay. No, that is me. Then plus in the 90s when it happened, you know, people wasn't coming out as being as it is today as saying that I'm not coming out the closet or anything just like that. Or people admitting that they were gay. No, but I'm not gay at all, period. Yeah. Look, I like women, you know, so, you know, heterosexual. I'm a lesbian.
I don't think you can take that. I don't think you can take that title. Go ahead.
I am a lesbian. I am a lesbian. I can take that title. I like women. Okay, so hey, so, but in that, I don't know why God blessed me with the gifts that He's blessed me with. I can handle some stuff that most people can't. I can deal with some stuff that most people think that most people can't. God has given me the ability to have complete understanding about stuff that it's like, wow, you know, like stuff I've tried to be angry about. All right, man, look, anybody that know me, it takes me very extremely long time to get angry. Very extremely long time to get angry. There's only a couple of things that you can do to me that, you know, that the anger come fast. And ironically, that incident, I don't know. I can't say what it is. I will not say that it was God. I don't know what it is. I'll be very honest with you.
To be able to process that. And
to be able to process it that quickly and then to walk away from it. But I will say that one of those deacons did come back to me and apologize to me. He said, man, when I say that the brother was heartbroken, he was truly heartbroken. And I know this dude to be a thugged out brother, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Straight thugged out, a straight manly man. And he was like, man, I do not know what came over me in there. I came and explain what happened. Man, please forgive me. That is something that I don't, man, and like he was so distraught from it. And I felt his heart. I felt his emotion. And he was the only one that came back and apologized. And then also he left the ministry. But it was such a tragic event for him to be the one to hold me down and also to witness it, that it broke him. When I say it broke him, man, it completely broke him. But I was thankful that he was able, that he did come back and apologize. That he did come back and say, hey, I can't even explain to you what took over me or what overtook me. He could not explain that at all. But I understand it, because when you've been subtly groomed to do things, it's easy to be that way. So, and being the armor bearer, now I've been an armor bearer about 3 more times since then. Man, the things that I look for, or the things that I looked for then,
was your guard up?
Guard up. And I'll be honest, it was hard for me to even trust a pastor, even though that I was a pastor's armor bearer. It still was hard for me to trust him if we were alone together. And my guard was up if we were alone. Bro, my guard was up big time. If we were in a meeting or we were somewhere that other men was there, bro, my guard was up. My guard was up big time. Then my wife at the time, I was thankful that she started being and I'm a bearer too, because then we would tag team and I would always have someone there. Right. But man, it also showed me that that our men and women of God are struggling in areas that they need, that they don't have people to go to and actually talk to.
They don't have the conversation.
Exactly.
Be able to release that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it taught me, it taught me how to properly pray for our pastors, pray for their strength. And then even the things that we do not get to see, that we have to pray for their protection. We have to pray for the strength of their mind. We have to pray for the attacks that actually come over them. No different than we would pray for that same prayer over our family. We have to pray that same thing for our pastors. And being an armor bearer, we get to see the most secretive portions about the man and woman of God. We get sometimes we're exposed to their arguments. Sometimes we're exposed to sides of them that we be like, huh? You the pastor, but we get exposed to that because it was God showing me, and it was a tool, a teaching to show me that our men and women of God are just as vulnerable as we are.
And it's funny you say that, because when you think about people who see pastors, they always think, oh, you the pastor, you should know better, or you do this or you that. And it's like, no, they're people too. Right. They go through things too. They have issues too, and they need to be prayed over as well. Right. They need somebody to cover them and be there for them just as much as they are for everybody else, because it can go back to that mental health aspect where if I'm pouring everything into you and I'm getting nothing in return, then what do I have left? And that's why you see so many pastors and people in ministry leaving the church.
Right.
Saying, I'm done. I'm exhausted. I have given everything. I don't have anything else to give.
Right. And then all that, even members that get hurt from it will leave the church and never come back. I think that this is what we have to be careful of, is that when something happened in one church, we feel that every single church is like that. And we have to be mindful to not think that way. Also, just because we got hurt in one church, it does not mean that the hurt is going to happen in another church. And then I've seen people leave ministry because of things like this, and not understanding that it's not ministry, it's not God, it's not even the church, it's that person. It's that person. But we also have to remind ourselves of Bible examples. David, the man after God's own heart, committed adultery and murder. Committed adultery, and then he murdered the husband of the wife that he slept with.
and then thought everything was fine.
And thought everything was fine.
Right.
And he couldn't go further in God because of that. Because he knew that he should have been out at a war with everybody else.
Thank you for watching Sunday Conversations. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook. We look forward to seeing you next week as we continue to bring you relevant content. Remember, God has a purpose and a